Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today we'll be speaking to a personal trainer, home stager, real estate broker, and boy mom from Colorado who started her competition journey in 2020 with her 6-month-old after being inspired by her mama, who is a masters bikini competitor. She went on to compete in 2020, placing first in true novice and getting a national qualification in the open division. She then did the San Antonio and got another second in open before taking an improvement season. And when she came back to the stage in 2022 and did the Pittsburgh Pro, she won the overall and then went on to Universe 2 months later, where she won the overall and, of course, her pro card. So looking forward to learning from this woman who also, I have to double check the calendar, but I don't know if this is going to be released before, but she's going to be at the podcast party too. So you guys definitely need to make sure you're signed up and coming to that if there's still space available by the time that this is out. If not, then you'll have to wait till the next one. But welcome to the show, Brittany Carbullido. How are you doing?
Hello, I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm so happy to have you. It feels like, everything always happens in the right timing, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you today. We both just wrapped up some travels, so it's kind of a nice way to just get back in the groove.
Yes, I agree.
So, I'm going to start by asking you, is there something you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you've got before your heel hits the stage?
Yes. So as I'm sitting backstage, I'm typically by myself, and, I kind of just get into my feelings. I remind myself that I worked really hard. No matter what the outcome is, I am proud of myself, and just to have fun because we work so hard during our off season and preps, and that I think it's 12 seconds as an amateur. You have that 12 seconds to showcase your physique and just to have fun.
Absolutely. I love that because those 12 seconds are meaningful and fun and amazing, but they wouldn't be possible, or they wouldn't be as fulfilling without the respect for the whole journey, both prep and improvement seasons before it.
Yes. Yeah.
And you've really come a long way from when you started. So let's just talk about how your journey started with the inspiration from your mom. I was really curious about that. So how did that go?
So I have always been an athlete. Growing up, I was a cheerleader for several years. And my mom was my cheerleading coach at one point. She started competing with Jamie DuBernard with Fit Body Fusion in 2012. Wow. And so growing up, we had a super healthy upbringing, both my sister and I. And watching my mom in the gym, I would go work out with her. I would watch her prep her meals. I've never been to a competition. I've never seen her in person compete, but she's always been an inspiration. And so after I had my son, I thought, I'm doing this.
Wow. So cool. I love hearing the perspective of like a child who witnessed their parents or parent or someone in their life pursue fitness in this way, and they were inspired by it rather than maybe judgmental of it or turned off by it. So what was it like for your mom to live that lifestyle? Like, how do you think she fostered that love or respect in you to then want to pursue it yourself?
I've always seen my mom just put so much dedication into the things that she's done as far as her career and then competing. And for me, just watching her happiness and watching her become someone new through competing was something I had always admired. And it's really crazy to see myself in my mom's shoes. Once I have time to reflect after competing, I think to myself, wow, I've come a really long way. I've matured in all aspects of my life. I've taken what I've learned from competing and have applied it to other areas of my life. So yeah, it's a little crazy how that works out.
Definitely. I think it's really cool too, because you're a mom yourself. So do you find that a lot of your drive to your work and your competing and everything you're pursuing and doing is also stemming to be an inspiration for your kiddo?
Yes, absolutely. My son is now 3 years old, and he will mock me. For example, if I'm doing squats, he will do his squats and he'll tell me to look at his muscles, and he'll tell me he's strong. And for me, it's an example that I'm setting for him. So yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That's so cute. I love that. And
Yeah.
what did you see your mom doing? You specifically said it was the happiness and seeing her become someone new through competing, but what were some things you saw in the lifestyle that maybe appealed to you or you thought would be possible for you?
Yes. So I am a very structured individual and always have been, even before competing. I thrive off of routine. And so when I started working out in the gym, I was at the gym every single day at the same time. And that also goes for meal prepping, right? And the dedication to that and just maintaining the diet. And that is what specifically drew me to competing. I loved working out and I loved how it made me feel. We put all those things together, you make a really strong athlete. Whether or not you're doing bikini, figure, or, women's bodybuilding.
So true. Like no matter what category or division, or even if you don't step on stage, like living the lifestyle of a competitor and having that structure is very freeing. And I think people tend to forget or maybe don't always realize that if you don't determine a structure for yourself, one will be determined for you. So it's nice to commit to one that actually makes you feel good.
Right. Or if it comes naturally, right?
Which it seems like that was the case for you because you were already a naturally structured person. So it doesn't sound like you had to change much to support this new goal.
Yes, you're right.
Does your mom still compete, by the way?
She actually is in her improvement season. So she's taken some time off. She will be competing next year.
Love it. That's so cool. And how about you? What are your plans?
So Jamie and I are going to continue building throughout the rest of the year. Once the 2023 schedule comes out, we will see which shows will best align with where my physique is at. And the big goal is to compete with my mom sometime next year.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I know, that's been the goal.
Do you have one in mind that you'd want to do together?
Yes. So I would love to do a show in Sacramento. So that Sacramento, California is where I'm from and my mom currently lives. And so there are a few Spectrum Fitness shows in Northern California and in Sacramento specifically. So it'd be really nice to compete with my mom in my hometown.
That's so cool. Now, when you decided to start competing, what did the people in your life at the time think of it?
My family, my mom specifically, was super supportive because she's known for so long how much I've fallen in love with fitness. And I think for her, it was special to see her oldest daughter follow into her footsteps. Yeah, and then other friends and family members were supportive. And it was during COVID, so 2020, I think it was in July of 2020, I informed the people in my life that I was going to compete. And I think there was some doubt because I had a 6-month-old son at the time, and it was in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yes.
So how did you manage to stay on top of your game with all that going on?
So at the time, we lived in an apartment and we had a small apartment gym, but we also had a gym in our garage. And I kid you not, I was lifting just random dumbbells in the garage, um, and trying to follow my plan as much as possible. But again, I think it falls back to the structure and routine. I made sure to get it done. I did my cardio outside. So yeah, it's doable.
Agreed. And I think sometimes people will get in their heads about like what they're capable of, like everything has to be perfect in order to be successful with this. So I'm going to wait till everything's how it should be, when really we can make the most of it, even when it's not necessarily perfect or what we expected.
I completely agree. And after I had stepped on stage after my first show, I think it made, stepping off the stage that much more rewarding, because I could say, oh, I competed and qualified for nationals during the middle of the pandemic and made a no excuse.
Mm-hmm. And own that too, because it's like you were responsible for that decision and for that commitment.
Yes.
That's so great. Now, what does a normal day look like or maybe I should go back in time a little bit first, because when you committed to competing, you had a baby and you had a structured life already, but then there was like the COVID stuff going on. So what did life look like maybe in prep at that point in time compared to as you evolved as an athlete?
Yes. So I would start my day at 4 a.m. I would take care of the baby, feed him, then put him down for his first nap. And as he was napping, I would get my workout in. And then after working out, I would come back and meal prep for the day. Since we were all at home, I would eat fresh meals all day, throughout the day. And then I would hop on my computer, work my 8 to 5 job at the time. And every 3 to 4 hours, I would have my meal, take a break, take care of the baby, and then make sure, that I got my rest, because taking care of an infant in a household and working in a household with your significant other is a lot.
Tell me more about that.
Yes. So my other half, he works in finance and he worked from home and I worked from home. We were in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment with an infant as we were building our house in Austin, Texas, which is where we lived at the time. So just really being on the same page almost in every aspect, as far as like our schedule, being super communicative and clear as to, how our day is going, how our work schedule looks, and when we're going to fit time, one-on-one time in on the calendar. So it was a little bit of a struggle, but we got through it.
And is it something that you guys have always prioritized to have date nights like that, or date moments, or one-on-one time?
Yes, absolutely. Our relationship was super strong in the beginning. And then, as new parents, you really don't understand how important it is to continue living somewhat of a normal life, especially for men. I think the adjustment to parenthood is a little more challenging. And I think just because the baby is so attached to the mom in the very beginning, and men are trying, especially my partner, he's trying to navigate, like, where do I fit in? What is my role as a dad? So yes, it was challenging, but we got through it.
That's really awesome that you guys were able to face those challenges together and communicate. That sounds like that was really the key, is communicating during that time. And that allowed you to maintain presence in your role as a wife, as well as a mom, and then as a competitor. So are there other things you do aside from communication that supports you in being present for those different hats you wear, even your business too?
Yes. So I find for myself that has worked so great is time blocking. And a lot of women actually reach out to me on Instagram, asking, how do you manage all of these different hats that you wear? And
Mhm.
I follow a calendar. Again, this is where the structure comes in. And I will block out almost every hour with a task, right? And within that hour, that is what I am committing to. I am present. If someone, asks to speak with me while I have this time blocked out for someone else, I kindly remind myself and inform them, like, this is my 1 hour where I'm committed to doing whatever it is. I time block my meals. I time block time with my baby. I will put the date nights on the calendar. And so it's just a way to commit to the hour and to be present.
I love that. I find time blocking to be so valuable. And I think sometimes people get worried about the overwhelm of doing it. But like if you do a brain dump of all the things that need your attention and time, and you identify how much time and attention it actually needs, it feels like so much less overwhelming than keeping it all in your head and not blocking it out.
Right. And or forgetting, you know. So
Absolutely. So when you do your time blocking, does it change week to week or is it always the same?
I have some, standing 1 hour blocks that are the same. But there are moments where, I have to switch things up. But for the most part, I am super committed to the schedule. Um, but being in real estate, my schedule does change quite often. So just being able to adjust as well is challenging, but I get it done.
Definitely. So when you are committing to, let's say, like your job, your real estate, your training, and you have passion for each of these things, like are you thinking you're going to be in all of these areas in the future too, or is it more so just like you're going to focus on one eventually? Like where do you foresee yourself in like 3 to 5 years?
I don't see myself slowing down at all. I can, with 100% confidence, say my heart is in fitness and in real estate. Um, and I know that's really it's different to hear, right? I think most people navigate to one thing and they stick to it, but I love fitness and real estate equally. So I don't think I'll be quitting one or the other.
I think that's awesome. I really admire and appreciate and respect when people have multiple passions and they give themselves permission to pursue that. And I think it's really good to have focus in multiple areas. I think it expands you as a person, as an individual, the way that you think, because it's easy to get caught up in something you do and like that becomes all you do and all you think about. So I really like when people have multiple passions and they pursue them. I think it's amazing that you're so multifaceted in that way.
Yeah, and I think it's so important in the aspect that you don't become burnt out with one, right? Or
Mhm.
maybe the pressure isn't as high when you have multiple passions. And you get to break it up a little bit, and it allows you to be thankful for the other. So when I'm doing real estate and my focus is on real estate, when I get into the gym, I walk in and I'm like, sign of relief, right? Because it's giving me a break from the other passion.
Yes. And when we have those things that kind of give us relief from one versus the other, it's pretty cool because they also probably complement each other, I imagine. Like committing to competition goals probably also shows up or supports you in how you show up in your real estate goals.
Absolutely.
So why did you decide to become a real estate broker?
So I have always been in the real estate industry ever since I think I was in college. I was working for a property management group, um, and I would do really well, in one sector of the business, and would always aim for more. So once I exceeded my role, I was always thinking of like, what can I do next that is in real estate? So I started in management, leasing apartments. And then I moved on to managing HOAs and condo communities. And then I moved to Newport Beach, where I started working for a commercial real estate firm on the sales side of the business. And the role really allowed me to be myself, right? I was super communicative, outgoing. I worked really hard. I worked after hours. And I think just having those traits as an employee um, set me up for success in the business. And then also the people. So making a difference in people's lives with the biggest purchase that they're ever going to make, whether it's in commercial real estate or residential, being a part of such a special moment and a moment that these people will never forget. For me, that was super fulfilling.
Oh, that's beautiful. And then did that lead you into the staging side of things, or was that already there?
Yes. So my staging business, I actually started earlier this year. I've had always received compliments of, people coming into my house and saying, "Oh my goodness, your house is beautiful. I love the way you decorated." And I just thought, okay, I'm going to do this as a side hustle. And so I have a few staging clients now. And for me, it's like making a house a home. So my clients purchase a house. It's a house that they love, but I get to also come in and make it a home for them. So that is something I'm just super happy that I can give back to.
That's so beautiful. And honestly, I can tell that it's something you care about. And I think it is shown and expressed in how you've lived and developed your own home. And I know you had mentioned earlier you guys were living in correct me if I'm wrong, did you say 1-bedroom apartment?
Yes.
While building the house that you're living in now, which I believe you've referenced as like your forever home or the dream home.
Yes. So we started in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. We built our home, which we thought it was going to be our forever home. We loved it. It was in Austin, Texas. But we did sell that house to move to Colorado. So now we're on a 45-acre ranch in Southwest Colorado.
That's so awesome. It looks beautiful, by the way.
And that is our forever home. This one we will not be moving from.
Yeah, and it's really wonderful that you're in that position to do that, and that's something that you're passionate about. Now, did you design this home yourselves and like the architecture all the way down to like the details of the interiors?
So the first house we built in Austin, Texas was the house that we had built from the ground up.
Okay.
And decorated and did the decor. Now this house in Colorado, we just decorated ourselves. It was already built.
That's really cool. Now, did you always want to live on a ranch, or did you always see yourself living that way?
Absolutely not.
Really?
Yes. I'm from the city. I've always lived in the city. I love the fast-paced lifestyle. So coming to Colorado was an adjustment, but I can say for a fact that I now have fallen in love with it.
Mm.
It's slower paced. We live in a small mountain town, and it's really great for our son. Um, we're just giving him a life that we did not have growing up.
What was your life like growing up compared to the life you want for your son?
Yeah, so we were always in the city. So in Sacramento, California, um, it was just very high pace, overpopulated, there's a lot of stimulation. Um, I grew up with a small group of friends all the way through kindergarten through high school. I would say I'm just a very city girl. I mean, I love the food, I love the action. Here in Colorado, I would say there's very little action. You have your mom and pop shops, you have maybe three good restaurants to choose from. Um, and when you walk into a business here in our town, you know somebody. In California, in the town I grew up in, you didn't know anyone unless it was in your friend group. I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
So we really enjoy walking into the post office and knowing the faces, going into the grocery store, seeing a friend, and the friendships that we've made out here in a short time, I'd say were formed organically and are super genuine.
Love that. Did it not feel genuine elsewhere?
I would say it did feel genuine growing up and through college. There was a phase in my life where the friendships I thought I was making were genuine at the time, but looking back, I'd say it was just a very temporary, because once we moved, we lost touch with a lot of those friends that we had made, which is kind of sad. But I think it just brought perspective to what true friendship is really supposed to be like.
Oh my gosh. I can relate to that. Like when you get true friends and you really connect with them and they show you what it means to have that unconditional support and belief and willingness to be there for them even from a distance, it changes the outlook you have, I think, on a lot of friendships that you do commit to developing.
Totally.
And I want to kind of explore just the success you have in your life, because I sometimes find that like a lot of our biggest strengths, like structure, for example, can also get the best of us. And I was wondering if you ever feel like you're not doing enough, or you're not good enough, or you're not accomplishing enough, given you are such a go-getter.
That's a tough question, especially because we have this competitive mindset naturally, right? But right now, I would say I am super satisfied with where I am at. I do have, my personal goals. Like, of course, I want to go to the Olympia, right? I want to beat my sales goals from this year to next year. But I don't think I would I'm putting too much on my plate. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like you've determined your threshold and you've determined what you want to commit to, and it serves you versus limits you.
Right. And one thing I have a really good grasp on is not burning myself out. I've experienced burnout early on in my fitness career, I think, and I've really learned from that. So when I'm reaching that stress or, the feeling of being overwhelmed, I instantly know to pull back a little bit.
And And how do you pay attention? Like what are the signs you're looking for?
Yes. So I really, I have self-awareness, right? So if I start to breathe heavy, or I start to, whether it's breakouts, or if I feel like I'm going to start overeating, because those are my symptoms when I feel overwhelmed. I'm just very in cue with those, in tune. And so if I see that coming on, I reevaluate. I write down in a journal how I'm feeling, and I journal on a regular basis. So for me, writing it down on paper is I'm seeing it. And so I really make sure to foster those feelings.
I love that, because there's a lot of times where people will be committing to like growing in some way, and they'll push and push and push, and they're trying to expand their threshold, and then something will come up that shows them like, hey, maybe you're pushing too much, but then they ignore it. And then that people try to put limits on themselves, or other people put limits on us. But if you know your own limits and you can respect those boundaries when they come up, then you're probably better able to pursue what you want to.
So one quote that I truly believe and follow is, if you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else.
Can you give an example of when that's like shown up in your life?
Yeah. So, my job is very demanding, right? And if I'm time blocking, I have my 1 hour to work out and have that 1 hour to myself, I am going to say no to that other, whether it's a person or event. I'm going to say no, because I already said yes to working out, right? And that 1 hour is super, super important to me, because it gives me clarity. It is my 1 hour to myself, because I am so busy, right? So again, saying yes to one thing is saying no to the other, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes along with my goals too, right? So if I'm deep into a prep, I'm saying yes to my training and saying no to going out and eating or drinking with whomever it is that was sending the invite.
Totally. I really like that quote as well. Like, if you're saying yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. And I also think that's not necessarily, because a lot of people are like, you have to make sacrifices. And I don't know that I love the word sacrifice for those things. I feel like it's always just a choice. Like, it's a choice on how you want to invest your energy or time. And it's with respect to the outcome that comes from prioritizing one thing maybe over another.
Right. Exactly right.
And you have spoken about how people do put limits on themselves or don't feel like they can do or have it all. So when did you personally decide that you could do all these things, and what has supported you in then showing other people that they can too?
So I would definitely say, before I had my son, I would put limits on myself. After I had him, I thought to myself, I am setting the example for him, and I want him to see me as a strong, powerful woman. And I've done exactly that. I say I'm going to do something and I follow through, I execute. And again, it's setting that example, commitments, passion. I want to be successful in the bodybuilding industry. I want to be a successful real estate broker. I want to be a successful business owner, and I want to have a successful relationship and be the best mom I can be. And I'm doing exactly that.
That's amazing. And have you found that this started as a drive because of your son wanting to be an example for him? Has it evolved into like other driving factors, or would you say your son is like your main motivating why?
He is my why, whether it is, competing or real estate. But other women that I've met through competing or through Fit Body Fusion, they really inspire me to be the best version of myself. And the women I've met on Instagram who reach out and ask so many questions, and I answer, and they're just so thankful that I've responded, or they tell me that I've made a difference for them. Or when they're watching my stories, they tell me that I'm motivating them, and thank you for sharing your story. So I would say there's a lot of different factors that motivate me and that are my why.
When you are like focused on your business, let's say as a trainer, do you find like that aligning with that why helps you to produce maybe more connection to your work or better, or is it just kind of come naturally? Like, is that something you do intentionally each day?
Can you repeat that question? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I don't think it was very clear, but are you like intentionally revisiting your why every day? Or is it more so just naturally, it's almost ingrained in you where you don't even have to think about it? But when you show up, let's say to train a client, you're motivated by, okay, I'm going to make an impact in their life? Or do you set the intention before you go to train the client? Like, okay, I'm doing this because I want to make an impact.
I would say it comes naturally. I have one in-person client, and he is 76 years old. And I love sharing my relationship with him because he approached me through a business card. He is also in real estate, but he thrives off of my young energy, right? And I can tell the difference between night and days to like when he's training by himself or training with me. He just trains more with intention when he's with me. We make it fun. He and I can already tell just from the weeks that we've spent together, he's becoming stronger. But to circle back to the question, I do think it just comes naturally. And again, it's a passion, right, to help others. So I show up for them.
I love that. And you really do have this passionate energy to you when you're talking about the things that you do or the people that you support. And this is not just in the training, but it's also in the real estate and in the staging and in the competing. I was hoping you could share some of the highlights you've had in your various careers and what you think allowed you to actually achieve those things.
So the highlights, yeah. So if we're talking about real estate, I had a mentor at one point when I was living in California, and he took me under his wing. I was a young female in a male dominant industry, and he gave me the attention that I had never seen before as far as a mentor. He would take me on meetings, even though I was supposed to be sitting at a desk in the office. We would go to lunch and just talk real estate. He would take me into his meetings, and I would be the only female at the conference table, which was super intimidating, but it taught me so much at a young age. And I think that was a turning point in my real estate career, and it had given me the confidence that I needed to succeed. And he ended up passing away, but I think it just makes my time with him that much more memorable. So yeah, so that's from the real estate topic. And then through bodybuilding, I think just from having that example from my mom, right? With commitment, dedication, being a woman, you can do it all, you can have it all. And my first competition, I would say, was the turning point. Knowing that I could reach the goal which was to place top 5 and taking that energy to become a better athlete, really set the tone for where I am now.
Wow. And are there things that you feel like you had to go through or overcome to also experience those types of breakthroughs?
I would say, yes. So getting to each goal it wasn't always easy. And again, I think that goes back to having the self-confidence, speaking to myself every morning and setting affirmations, which I still do to this day. Knowing that if I fail one day, the next day is an opportunity to come back stronger. And I do really preach that to a lot of my friends, who have setbacks, because I've had setbacks. And I think, again, just showing up for myself really allowed me to overcome those setbacks.
Were there times where you didn't want to show up for yourself?
Yes, there are definitely some moments where I doubted myself, especially going into the universe. Going into universe, I was really in my head. It was my first national show, and I was just in such a negative headspace. But to get out of that, again, it was just kind of going through the motions, and reaching out to other people who did believe in me. Because at the end of the day, getting my pro card wasn't just for me. It was for my coach who invested in me. It was for my family members who believed in me and, who sacrificed, I guess, holidays and birthdays and celebrations so that I could reach the goal, right? So, yeah.
Wow. That's super amazing. And then now you are Miss Bikini Universe.
I am.
It's amazing. That's such a huge accomplishment. And you specifically called on people who believe in you to support you in more belief in yourself. And I sometimes like to tell myself, it's okay if you need to borrow belief, because
Yes.
it's like we need other people. We're not meant to just exist individually. There would be so much void. There would be a big void in our life if we didn't have a community. And it's wonderful to have the bodybuilding community, of course, even just feeling connected through listening to podcasts like this. So but anyways, I do think it's really cool that you reached out to people who believed in you. Now, what shifted? Like, what had to shift to take you from a negative headspace to literally winning the show?
Yeah, so for me, looking back through photos, to see how far I've actually had come, helped me. Going through my texts with Jamie, I communicate with her like I communicate with nobody else. Yeah, and just reminding myself, we all start somewhere. Every day is not perfect. And if it's not, the next day's an opportunity to show up. And then one quote that I always follow is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so that always sticks in my mind and I apply that to anything.
When you were in your seasons, you had started in 2020, of course. You definitely proved that whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, because you showed up and you made it happen. Let's start there. How did that first time experience inform some of those other competing experiences you had, and maybe ultimately even led you to the successful run of shows before earning your pro card?
Yeah, so I had applied, that mindset. And obviously that quote was always in the back of my mind through all of my preps. Going into my first show, I had no idea what to expect. I was I was just there to have fun. Of course, I wanted a place, right? And then I placed first in true novice, first in novice, and then I placed second in the overall. And just having that I can do this attitude really set the tone for me going into my next show, which was, I do believe, in San Antonio, where I placed second. And then I was just so frustrated. I kept placing second. You know, although it was a good placing, I think that's just the competitiveness in me. Um, but Jamie and I had decided, okay, we can go to nationals, we can show up, and you can gain the experience just so that the judges can see you and you can get a taste of what it's like, or we can take an improvement season, which is what we did. And I knew I had to grow, just grow in the sport, mature in the sport in all aspects. And then that allowed me to show up early this year, and being competitive. Jamie and I had decided, okay, we're not stepping on stage until we are competitive. But during that time, I've grown as far as my mindset. I know who I am as an athlete, and also physically.
Yes. So when you kept getting second over and over again, what was the feedback you were getting, and how did that time away from the stage support you in coming back better?
So I started my competition career just very lean. Genetically, I have a great structure for bikini, but I was just lean. So first show, it was, okay, let's build your glutes. Second show was, let's build your glutes. And so at that point, we already knew we need to build your glutes. And in order to do that, Jamie and I was eating in a surplus. I was doing zero cardio. I had gained quite a bit of weight, which was very challenging for me. And we stuck to our nutrition. We nailed the nutrition, and we were lifting heavy in the gym every single day for 18, 19 months. We would see a show come up and we'd say, okay, let's do a mini cut. And I think we did that a couple of times, and my body was not responding, or we didn't have enough muscle. So getting excited about a show and then being disappointed, like, to know that I wasn't ready, was challenging. But I did tell myself, when I show up on stage again, I want to be undeniable. And in order to do that, we had to take even more time away. So it was the nutrition, lifting heavy, resting, and making my improvement season a priority, and not rushing the process. So when Jamie said, okay, we're starting our prep in January 2022, we're doing this, I was just so excited. And I think taking all of those, different aspects like nutrition, weight training, resting, really helped me throughout my prep going into the Pittsburgh show.
Wow. Did you struggle with the growing season because it was requiring like a different version of you to come out, or was it something like you were able to accept?
So looking in the mirror, of course, going from stage lean to gaining almost 40 pounds, 45 pounds in a very short period of time was challenging. I would avoid the mirror, looking at myself at all costs. But I reached a point where I was doing my research on building muscle. And obviously Jamie has told me this too, like in order to build muscle, you need to put on weight, you need to eat. So that was challenging for me. But once I could gain some maturity in that department, I thought, okay, I love my body. I love the energy that I have. I'm super thankful that my body's allowing me to do what I love. So that was one struggle. And then the second struggle, I'd say, was pushing shows back. I would get so excited about a show just to be a little bit disappointed that we weren't going to do it. And I think that maybe happened 2 or 3 times. And after the third time, I said, I'm leaving it to you, Jamie. You tell me when I'm ready. And so I think it made it that much more sweeter when she said, okay, we're prepping. So those were the two things I struggled with a little bit.
Understandable. And now looking back, are you kind of glad that you did just let go and focus on that process?
Absolutely, 100%. Things don't always go as planned in the competition world, right? And in preps, there's so many things that can happen. I'm just super thankful that when we did start prep earlier this year, I was super healthy. I was in a positive mindset. I was energetic. My outside world, the world outside of bodybuilding, people were supportive. So I do think it set the tone for a really successful prep.
Do you think that contributed or does contribute to the way that you execute on the commitments required to be successful in a prep as well, like starting in a good place like that?
Yes, absolutely. And I can say that because prepping for my pro debut, I was not in the right mindset. I did not have the support, but I was going through the motions, and I think that really showed on my physique. So I do think the outside world and where you're at mentally can really determine how successful you are going into a prep.
I agree. Now, what are some things that you think are important to maybe pay attention to in your outside world before going into a prep? Like, what should someone maybe have in alignment?
Yes. So I definitely think your relationships should be in a solid place. We are spending so much time away from our family and friends or work once we start prep. And we're super hyper focused on, the things that we have to do as far as eating and meal prepping and being in the gym and doing our cardio. We take away from, our family and friends. I do think your finances have to be in check. It is so expensive. And I can say, I almost went completely broke going into,
Really?
yes. And I'm saying that being fully transparent because I love this sport so much, right? We pay for travel, we pay for hotels, we pay for bikinis, multiple bikinis, jewelry, hair, makeup, gas if you're driving across country because you're afraid to fly due to weight gain or however that plans out. Sometimes you take time away from your jobs, right? So I would definitely say like having your finances in check and being able to afford everything that goes into it. You pay for your coaching, posing coaches, right? Food meal prepping companies to prep your food. It does get expensive. So I do think that your finances should be solid.
How did you recover or get yourself back to a place where you were able to recommit to it?
I obviously, so my businesses were thriving after I think it was Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh, I had just gone fully commission into my commission based job. So I didn't have a salary. And when I started prepping for Pittsburgh, it was the winter. So real estate was really, really slow. Um, but when I got out of the Pittsburgh show, that's when I started my staging business. And so that took off. And then as we got into the spring, residential real estate was picking up. So I was able to recover, but I would just say, really plan out everything you're paying for beforehand. And then going into the national show at Universe, I was able to have things in order and a budget. So that was my thing. I did not budget for the shows. I never really had to travel for a show. I was living in Texas when I was competing in the Texas shows. But when you get to the national level, there's so much more that goes into it, like having your makeup done and your hair done. And I had a posing coach. So Fitness by Amy, she's a pro and she's on the Fit Body Fusion team, and I used her as my coach. And so there's just a lot more, I think, that goes into the financial part when you're competing at the national level.
So true. There really is. And you have to be prepared for those investments and not underestimate them. If anything, like I personally set aside a whole folder every year that's just if I know I'm competing that year or the upcoming year, that's just for competing, and I'll put thousands of dollars in it just so I know I'm good to go on like coaching, groceries, posing, suits, obviously if you're investing in suits, but makeup, hair, and then the actual show registrations, and then travel. Like I know even just for like a national show, most girls are dropping at least $3,000.
Right. I think you're right on track. When I was competing at Universe, I spent close to $3,300 just to travel, hotel stay, all of the things that you just mentioned.
Yeah, it's no joke. Like it's no, you gotta love it and you gotta want it because it's gonna demand a lot of you.
And that's exactly what I did, right? When I was going to Pittsburgh, I'm like, I am barely making it, but I want this so bad. So I said no to other things so that I could do the Pittsburgh show and the national show. But it worked out.
It did. It was worth it, it seems like.
Yes.
So what are you now working to achieve on your competing journey?
So Jamie and I will start prep either first thing in the new year or starting in March. We just want to make sure I'm coming to the pro league conditioned and competitive. So what I've learned really on is I want to be competitive and I don't compete just to show up, although there are a lot of women who do, and that is totally okay. But for me personally, I want to do extremely well. So we are going to look at the shows as soon as the schedule comes out. And my goal for this next year is to qualify for the Olympia.
Woo! Yeah, she said it.
I said it.
I love that. And you would really be able to represent so much of what it means to be an athlete who wears many hats and who can be an inspiration for your son, for example, or to other women or your clients. And I just really love that. And I think having representation like that on the biggest stage in the world is important.
Exactly. And, I've heard a lot of women to, doubt themselves when they say, I have a career or I have an infant or a family at home, I can't reach this goal or that goal. And again, it's setting the example. And I got my pro card after having a baby. You know, so many people think, oh, I can't do this because I have a baby. Um, but I'm here to say that you can and you will if you put your mind to it and commit to it.
That's so cool. And like, you not only have achieved success in competing in these other areas of life, but you're also able to like bring that confidence on stage, or bring that confidence into relationships or friendships or into the world, which I think, or as a mom, and for yourself, and all of that's really special. And I'm curious if you think that this plays a role in how you've maybe landed sponsorship deals, because you've got some really good ones, or brands that you represent too. Like, how do you think those unfolded, or how do you think that relates to the lifestyle you live and what you preach?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think the sponsorships that I do have now, they have fallen in love with my story, and who I am and what I represent as far as professionalism as an athlete. And so for me, that's super special. I don't have a huge following. My, obviously my following is much more intimate. And that's okay. And you can get sponsorships even if you don't have thousands of followers, right? It's just being fully transparent about who you are, what you bring to the table, um, you know, how you make an impact. And if you have all of those things, I mean, you will go far, and no matter what area or sport you're in.
I agree. And like having confidence in your story and willingness to share it and put it out there, and knowing the value of your story, I think helps you to remain open to opportunities like that.
Absolutely. I agree. Yes.
So I did want to know how you bring that confidence on stage, because it's very clear in your posing and in your performance that there's some sort of fire in you. There's that belief, like you can feel your why, but what is it that you channel or maybe do to support you in bringing that up there?
Yeah. So I was a cheerleader for many, many years. So starting at a young age, I was in my first cheerleading uniform at the age of 5. So being in front of crowds has never been an issue for me. Performing and smiling on stage has just come natural to me. Um, I think with competing, you're in a bikini, you're the only one on the stage. So the difference between cheerleading and competing and doing your routine on your own is you are by yourself. You do not have anybody else on stage with you. So that was something I had to get used to. I would just say I feel like I'm in my element. I practice a lot during my off season. And I know that's very difficult for many women because our bodies are just different, right? I've invested in my posing coach, which has helped a lot. But I feel like I am me. I am Brittany when I am performing on stage. And I think that really shows in my face and just the way that I flow when I have my 12 seconds on stage.
Yes, and that's something that came up. Actually, I was hosting an event this past weekend, and we were talking about posing, and one of the girls was sharing how she feels most like herself when she's on stage, because she herself was a performer, actually, much like what you're describing. And I think that some people thrive off of like having an alter ego, and other people thrive off of like just fully embracing themselves and bringing that. And it's always cool to hear the perspective of like ultimately what allows you to bring the best energy, and that I got this type of vibe onto the stage, so you're really undeniable.
Right. And you work so hard um, during your improvement season and preps, this is your time. This is your time to show the judges and everybody who has shown up to that competition, to show them what you're made of. And one thing that has always stuck with me is Jamie, if I'm ever having doubt right before I'm about to hit the stage, she says, this is your time. This is nobody else's time. This is your time. And you're going to showcase to the best of your ability. And I want you to show them what you're made of so that they bring you out at finals because they want to see more of you. So that always sticks with me. And it has helped, I think, with posing.
Love that. It's like you're not just going up there to rock it in that moment, but you're going up there to make sure that they want to see you rock it again. Like you want them to be hungry to keep watching you.
Exactly right. Yes.
Because there's people, like when I go to shows and I'm watching any division really, but there's always like someone in every division who just captures the attention. You know, they're like captivating in some way. So why not let that be you?
Right. And I think through posing and just bringing that energy to the stage has helped me, because I am not the girl with the most muscle. I am not the girl with the biggest glutes. I mean, I know bikini is all about balance, but when they're calling that first call outs, you have to nail everything, right? Your presentation, your posing, your physique. So I think posing for me has helped immensely.
Absolutely. Because it's not enough to just go up there and hope for the best, but it's like how you pose in every little detail matters, and honestly being willing to change it. Because I know for me personally, there were some things that felt good but they didn't look good, or things that I'll change probably in the future that maybe look good now but I don't foresee embodying like the athlete I want to be, you know, or it didn't work for some reason and therefore it needs to change. But it's like having a coach and investing in bringing your best, of course, matters.
Yes, 100%.
So I would love for you to give us your best advice now. So your best advice for someone who's never competed before but would like to, and then your best advice for someone on their road to pro.
Yes. So my best advice to someone who has never competed before is to, one, do your research on a coach and or team and make sure that their values align with yours. Because together, you and your coach will take you to the next level. And piggybacking on that, your journey is your journey, not anyone else's. So don't play the comparison game. Stay focused. Work to the best of your ability. Your first chapter is going to be different than someone else's first chapter. Everyone's starting point is different. So just stay focused on yourself, and make sure you check off those daily goals, because those daily goals will get you to your big goal. And my best advice for someone going into a national show, road to pro, is stay committed. You know, don't lose focus. And again, don't play the comparison game. Enjoy your journey as an amateur. It doesn't matter how many shows you do to get to becoming a pro. If it's 5, 15, 20, just never give up. You are building the best version of yourself and you will get there.
I love that. I really do, especially like letting go of the timeline and just staying focused and knowing the time will come. And I'm so excited, Brittany, to just witness the rest of your journey as well. And I'm so happy to be connected with you and just really looking forward. I mean, I'm sure I'll see you at the Olympia, but I'm just looking forward to a lot of opportunities to contribute to this industry with you, because I think the way you show up and like you said, your story is making an impact.
Thank you so much, Celeste, and you are amazing. One great thing about this sport is we are always improving and we're cheering each other on. Every journey is different, but we're just out here trying to be the best that we can. And yeah, so thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's been my pleasure. And I would love if you could just let everybody know maybe how they could find you, connect with you, work with you, in any of your businesses, and of course in following your journey.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Britt, Britt, Christine, just as it's normally spelled, CHRISTINE _ IFBB Pro. And if you're interested in one-on-one training or lifestyle training, you can personally DM me. I love to get to know you and do a consultation. So that is where you can find me.
Awesome. I'm going to have my girl put that in the show notes. So you guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. And if you are looking for this episode in the future, scroll down to the category section. It's always alphabetized. And you'll not only find the links and the resources mentioned, but you're also going to be able to see a full breakdown of the topics covered in this episode, timestamps, so you can go back and listen to particular parts of the episode, and then a summary. And why I have a note person do this is because it lets you tell all your friends and your teammates or your socials about why they should come and check out this podcast too. So appreciate you guys tuning in. And Brittany, thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such a special episode, and I will see you in Arizona.
Yeah, can't wait. And to everybody listening, hope y'all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode.